not like super hard after hearing the news that I think he was pretty discouraged. Anyway, we're going to drive through that area, which is right up here. Some of these maps show it better than here. Gilboa, Hill of Moreh, you see Endor, and Mount Tabor. So you can see the three of them. Shunem would be right where the number 4 is. Nain would be on top. This Gath-Hepher, that's an Old Testament name for Nazareth. It would be known as Nazareth and be in the similar area by the time that Jesus was there and Joseph and Mary. Now, we're going to drive, I don't know how far we'll get today, but we're going to drive up this valley, kind of up this Jezreel River here, then turn north around the Hill of Moreh and head straight north for Nazareth. And we're going to drive through Nazareth. In this trip, we didn't stop in Nazareth. We just drove through it, and which is quite a bit larger now than it was in Jesus' day. And then we're going to go to a town 4 miles from Nazareth. I'm going to see, so we're up here, Nazareth. Here again, Gilboa, Mount Moreh, or the Hill of Moreh, as usually it's called, Mount Tabor, Endor in between, Shunem down at the base. So remember those 3. You've got those 3 right there. And this will show where we're headed. So Tabor here, Nazareth next to it, and there's the town we're headed for, Sepphoris. Sepphoris. I've only been there once out of my 3 trips to Israel, Sepphoris, but I'm glad we went. Sepphoris is never mentioned in the Bible. Probably why we didn't go back again, but it certainly was there during Bible times. In fact, the son of Herod the Great, now when Herod the Great died, his kingdom, which was all of Israel, was divided up. There would not be another king like Herod the Great. All of his kingdom was chopped up. Who did that? The Romans did. They didn't trust his children. He had killed some of them, but others of them would reign, but not as, they might even be called king, but they were not king like Herod was king of the whole land. And so one of his sons, Herod Antipas, also called Herod Tetrarch, would reign over Galilee, what we're looking at here, and over part of the land across the Jordan over where Jordan is today. Kind of an odd arrangement, but because they were not next to each other. But he had a narrow strip down the Jordan River, and then he had an area to the east of the Dead Sea. Herod Antipas, Herod Tetrarch. Herod began reigning when his father died in 4 BC, when Jesus was perhaps 2. Okay? When Jesus was arrested in the Garden of Gethsemane, he was taken by the priests, and he was questioned, and he was kept overnight. The next day, they took him to Pilate. And Pilate, when Pilate learned that he was a Jew and what they were working with, decided, maybe I can offload this problem to Herod. Do you remember? And he sent Jesus to Herod, even though Pilate didn't like Herod. Like, we're not talking, we don't like each other. And Herod, that Herod, had a palace across Jerusalem. I've been in it, opposite Jerusalem from where Pilate was. So they send Jesus through the streets into Herod's palace. That's Herod Antipas. The Herod that Jesus stood in front of is this Herod that I'm talking about, the son of Herod the Great. He's also the one that beheaded John the Baptist. Okay, so he's not like a super nice guy. Well, Herod Antipas is the one who decided, Galilee being part of his territory, that the capital of his territory of Galilee would be Sepphoris, the capital. Again, there was not sufficient reason for God to put it into the holy text, but that doesn't mean it wasn't there. It doesn't mean that maybe even Jesus didn't go there. Traditionally, this means almost nothing, but Josephus even indicates, an ancient Jewish historian at the time shortly after the time of Christ, indicated that Mary was born in Sepphoris, not Nazareth, not Bethlehem, which we never really knew where she was born. Right, the Bible doesn't say anything about that or where her parents were from. But Josephus somehow seems to want to indicate, and others by tradition indicate, that Mary's hometown was Sepphoris. We don't know. But Herod Antipas made it the capital. Then, consequently, Sepphoris would be a very significant city. The largest, most populous city in Galilee, which isn't saying much. You know, that's like saying the most populous city in Iowa or Nebraska or South Dakota or something, you know. That's not saying much. It's not going to be a very big thing. But in truth, Sepphoris was, they say, even housed the Sanhedrin for some time. The highest court of the land was relocated to Sepphoris under Herod Antipas. I don't know if that's true or not. But when the Jewish rebellion came in 66 through 70, that destroyed Jerusalem and the temple, these stones will not be left one upon another, and Masada fell in 72-ish, 73. Sepphoris was pro-Roman. And so they surrendered rather than fighting the Roman legions. They surrendered. We give up. The rest of Galilee was absolutely on fire with rebellion against the Romans. So cities were being razed, R-A-Z-E-D. They were being destroyed, but not Sepphoris. Sepphoris surrendered to the Romans because they were pro-Roman. We like the Romans. What's the problem? They were less Jewish and more Romanish in their culture. So what does that mean about Sepphoris and its ruins? It wasn't destroyed. Now, it's been destroyed since, whatever, but it's in better shape. The ruins are in better shape than to have Roman soldiers come through and just destroy and burn and break and whatever. So, as we look at the ruins of Sepphoris, we're going to see probably the best preserved synagogue anywhere in Israel. And I actually have video of being in that synagogue. So you'll be able to see, okay, this is what a synagogue looks like. Better than, there's been some that have been restored or rebuilt or modeled after, but this would be original. All right, so again, I'm going over this again. Gilboa, Mount Morah here, Tabor, Nazareth, Nazrat, and 4 miles to Sepphoris. Sepphoris is Greek, the Greek name for it. The Hebrew name is Zippori, which means bird, place of the bird. It's up high, and it would have been a beautiful place in its day. Perhaps the birthplace of Mary and the residency of her parents, some say, by tradition. Her parents, okay. It's thought that if Joseph was a notable carpenter, well, then he probably did quite a bit of work in a much more significant city than Nazareth. Remember, can any good thing come out of Nazareth? Nobody would have said that of Zippori or Sepphoris. It was a really flourishing area. These are the ruins of Zippori here. You can see a small amphitheater here. Some of the residency over here. This right here almost doesn't look like it fits, and this is a more modern structure here I'll talk about in a minute. On the very crest of the hill, the highest part is this right here, and it doesn't fit because that is a fortress built by the Crusaders, and that's 1,000 years after the time of Christ. Actually, a little bit more than that. Probably 1,200 years after the time of Christ, and it still stands. It's a fortress. And what they did is there were stones everywhere in the ruins of Sepphoris. So they just started hauling these already squared off stones and find me one about this big, and they threw it in the wall. So when we get there and you see it, there's all kinds of different shapes and sizes of stones. It's kind of a hodgepodge. It doesn't look very good at all, but it was quite effective. So we'll take a look at that. I even have a video of stepping inside of it for a moment. Over here, this roof area, it's modern, and it's built over the top of one of the most significant homes that's ever been discovered in antiquity. Whoever owned the home, and they're not exactly sure, was very wealthy, extremely wealthy. So it would have been a sort of mansion in its day. And when we were there, I was quite sure that our guide indicated they were thinking that it was the home of the ruler of the synagogue. I know he said that. But in reading and researching, it doesn't seem like they're actually sure that that's who it was. But was the ruler of a synagogue a notable person and one who could have wealth? Well, apparently, yes. This goes back to the time of Christ. And so Israel has built this structure over the top of it to preserve it, put a roof over it, and then we're going to go in and kind of look at it and look it over. So this is looking back a little bit further and from another angle. But you can see the prominent Crusader fortress there anyway. Zippori. Now we're inside of that amphitheater, which is significantly smaller, though it may not have been the only one that was here in this town. It's quite a bit smaller than that which we saw in Beit Shan. And they actually have set it up so that school children come on field trips and they perform here. They will do things and sit there in the ruins. They probably don't think too much about it, but we would go, oh, that's pretty neat. But they just, their things are all over the place. I have to show you this. I remember seeing this. This is a Roman road. It is 100% stone, really thick stone blocks there. What do you notice? What do you notice about the wear? Can you see lines? Does it not appear that the tread of wagons and chariots have worn the stone? That is what that is. That's an amazing thing. That would be quite a bit of wagon, but I remember looking down there and our guide pointing that out to us. And did that happen in America as wagons went out west? Are there places in the stone where wagon ruts have formed? Yeah. But I mean, I don't know. Solid stone like that, that'd be a lot of traffic jams, snow and ice. This is called the Mona Lisa of Galilee. The Mona Lisa of Galilee. This is in the floor of that wealthy home. Now, I've got video of this, but this is on the floor. It's not on the wall. It's on the floor. And this, I've just snatched this from video that I was taking, and put that up there. And it's not a painting, it's a mosaic. It's all mosaic. The whole thing is mosaic. You say, well, I can see, as we look out to the sides, okay, you can begin to see the pixels. But in her face, can you see pixels? Not really. They just kind of blend together. Some artist did this with, I think it's 18 different colored mosaic pieces. Now, the smaller the pieces, the more expensive the mosaic. Okay, that makes sense. The larger the pieces, the cheaper, quicker, easier. Now, we're looking at mosaics down in Beit Shan, and there's 3 different colors there. Okay, that's pretty cool, they were doing. But notice the shading in the face and in the eyes. How do you do eyes? With little pieces of mosaic. They say, like a good art, painting, anywhere that you walk in this room, and it was a fairly large room, those eyes are looking at you. Anywhere that you moved. The Mona Lisa of Galilee, in that expensive, and again, I've got a video. Now I'm going to zoom in a little closer so you'll begin to see. They have counted, I want to say 924 pixels in a 3-inch by 3-inch area. 924 pieces of ceramic. And now I've zoomed in. Oh, now you can see it. But it's not really designed for you to come right up to it like this, with a mosaic. So when we back away from it, same picture. All the colors just begin to blend together. Kind of like our old TV sets. You remember you used to go up close and you go, what's all this? Dot, 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 dot. When you backed away, well, then you saw a full-colored picture. So that is the Mona Lisa of Galilee. All right, well, any questions about any of that? We didn't actually get to jump in the bus, but you're going to have to come back because we're going to make our journey. Do you remember the 3? You're going to have to remember these for next week. Pop quiz right at the beginning. What's the one further south? Mount Gilboa. Mount Gilboa. Then the next one north of that is the hill of Morah. Shunem, Nain are there associated with it. And then north of that is Mount Tabor. Okay, and in between Tabor and Mount Morah is a village called Endor. Endor. And if you go straight west from Mount Tabor, that ridge area there, what village is on top? Nazareth. Nazareth. And we're going to drive up to Nazareth. And there's more that I'm going to be able to talk about regarding Nazareth there. And then we're going to go on our way to Sepphoris, where we'll get out of the bus and walk through. I really do want you to see the synagogue. You will really enjoy looking at that. All right, we're done this morning. Stick around for the morning service, though. Since you're here, you just as well. It's all good. Thank you for coming.